No,
Hey,
Rob,
Jim Bam.
no. Here we're talking about sports and stuff.
All right, look, do us a favor. Rob Browne here, Memphis, Brendan Martin in Ocala, Florida. I love the band music. This is great stuff. We got a great show today. Take a picture with your phone of the QR code. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. 8 channels live. And man, go to our Twitter page. Nobody works harder than Mennonite farmers, the Amish, or Brendan Martin, our executive
I am
producer.
all those things.
You are.
Plus, I'm Cherokee and Navajo.
Well, there you go. And all those reels that you put up yet from yesterday's show and Scarbo's Nose,
Crushing them.
They are great stuff.
Crushing them with 3 hours of sports talk content every single day, right here. 3 social media platforms, 9 profiles, dude. If you can't get it, you can't find us. You might want to go see somebody about that.
Yeah, because we're here.
Easy to find.
Hey, we got Dana Marquez on this morning. Going to be a lot of fun. Dana, jump on in here. Dana was longtime director of equipment operations at Auburn. Came from the 49ers back in 05. Talking before the show, what a small world. He and Brendan both from Littleton, Colorado. But Dana, first off, thank you for taking time to share with us this morning. Your journey's just been nothing short of amazing. You started, I think, 5 companies on the side when you were working at Auburn. Now you're working with Middle Tennessee State. What you do and the strength coaches, you spend more time with the student athletes than anybody. I mean, there's nobody spends as much time with them other than, well, nobody. So let's
say off season, like almost like an assistant head coach almost.
Yeah, and a counselor. So you've got a perspective on what's happening with student athletes. And you and I have known each other for a long time. You've mentored Thompson Westerberg, one of my favorite kids. Call him my 5th kid. And he used to talk about how hard you worked them. We're losing, it seems, a lot of that. Talk about what you're doing up there with Derek Mason at Middle Tennessee and how that fits into what the SEC and the rest of college football is going through right now.
Oh, Rob, guys, Brandon, thank you very much for having me. A lot of changes, right? And it doesn't have to be a huge change. It just has to be a smart change, right? I think what you're seeing in the NIL space at the Power 4 is completely different than what you're getting at the Group of 5, right? Obviously, money contracts, the TV contracts are huge compared to the Group of 5 TV contract, things like that. But I think philosophy-wise, I've just taken more of a business approach to what I do with our student athlete versus what the Power 4 is really doing in regards to listening to agents and looking at their value of that athlete and then paying them on a value that's pretty much not unknown, right? So, for me, I don't we do take care of our freshmen that are coming in out of high school, but they're still learning how to play football.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you're a 5-star athlete and going into your first year of college. We had that at Auburn, and we had the number 1 recruit at Auburn when I was there, defensive end, but didn't know what set the edge meant. He was a see ball, hit ball guy in high school. He was the best player in the high school, everything else, but he still didn't know the game of football.
Yeah.
And I think now everybody has kind of got this thing. It's like, hey, look, that defensive end, he's a 5-star. He's worth $1 million too. He's this, he's that, but he's never played the game. So we've just taken a different look at how that works. I think there's there's 2 real main factors that I look at. Do you know football? All right, that's one. And do you love football? Those are 2. And I think if you go back into the 80s, 70s era where, you hear those stories of Ronnie Lott chopping off his finger.
Yeah.
That's a guy that loves football, right?
Yeah.
That's a guy that played through injury and did those things. You're not going to get that here. Like, you're not going to get that in this era. Like, these guys pull a hamstring and they're out for a couple of weeks because their trainer that they have hired is now overriding the athletic trainer at the facility. And then team doc's not getting involved because they have their own doctor visit and they're handling that. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there. I think that what NIL was supposed to be and really what it turned into.
Yeah.
We're trying here at MTSU to make sure our student athletes, one, do have an academic component to everything that they do, that they have a community service component to everything that they do. And that the community part of it is probably the biggest part, right? Because being in Murfreesboro, Murfreesboro is one of the fastest growing cities in Tennessee. It's believe it or not, it's larger than the University of Tennessee. The school is. So we have more students than the University of Tennessee. So getting to understand that and getting our football players to understand that the community here is super important to this town and super important to the university and their team. So those are really the things that we structured ourselves around. It's like, so when I got my football team here 8 months ago, I guess is when I joined MTSU as a consultant, and then turned around into the GM back then. So one of my goals with Coach Mason was, how do we get our team involved in our community? How can we start showing them what an entrepreneurship looks like, and kind of stepped it up from there, versus saying, hey, we got this wide receiver that's coming in, let's just pay him $1 million and see how he performs. Like that just didn't make a lot of sense to me from a business structure standpoint. I think I need to look at the player and say, yeah, he's a good player, but how is he going to help our brand? How is he going to help his brand? And then how is he going to help our community? I think those are the things that I'm looking at student athletes right now.
Yeah, and I can tell you from working for Duncan Williams investment banking firm 12 years, we did everything in the community. Duncan, our firm, if it could be sponsored, it was sponsored, and Gary Linderman and that team. I totally agree with you on that. And you're just more invested. I got to ask you, tell people about your offensive linemen and your trips to the farmers market, how you've taught them what real entrepreneurship. NIL is a quick fix, like drinking a Coke. You get a sugar high, then you crash, unless it's a Mexican Coke with pure cane sugar, which I drink one of every day.
There you go. No, it's kind of a unique thing, right? So one of the projects I started was this farmer market project. So the football team was actually required to go down to the farmers market. And it started off with the offensive line. They really kind of jumped into it really quick. So we took the offensive line down to our farmers market, which is downtown in Murfreesboro in the square. And it is a huge farmers market in town. So met with Miss Linda, who oversees the market. We brought them down there, and I introduced them to every single vendor on the market, right? If it's AAA vegetables, or if it's the Chris's farmers market, it's his farm, or if it's the oatmeal people, right? Eventually we ran into a lady named Tracy who owns T-Nuts peanut butter. The players started doing some tastings, and I asked Tracy, I said, how'd you start? She goes, well, I'm a nurse by trade from MTSU. So local, she went to MTSU. There's a connection there. I said, hey, I've seen your peanut butter in other, stores in town. If it's at TNC Craft Butcher, how can our football team help you? Or how can you help our football team create their own peanut butter? And she's like, oh yeah, we can definitely do that. So I introduced 3 of our offensive linemen to Tracy and said, do you guys want to do this? How would this look? And they put a business plan together. They got with Tracy. They figured out how to purchase and how to make their own peanut butter, what that would look like. It's a marshmallow fluff with some chocolate, homemade peanuts. It's an insane amount of sugar, super good. They came up with a name for it, the whole deal. So Blindside Peanut Butter was the name of the brand that they came out with. And really, it was just one of those things that really kind of took off for them. And once they got involved, then other teammates say, hey, I want to go to the farmer's market, right? So I got tight ends over in the oatmeal section, and I've got wide receivers over at the bread company. I've got players kind of everywhere. And what's really happened to the players is what I'm asking them. I said, so have you noticed a difference during the year? And he goes, yeah, we go to dinner and people walk up to us. I've seen you at the farmer's market. So there's a brand identity now for our football program being at the farmer's market and our community engaging into our athlete. And that's really kind of where I wanted to start that. That was the first part of it, right?
Yeah.
The second part of that was I created a ticket sales opportunity for each position. So they sold tickets to opening day game, right? Individual tickets, so on and so forth. I never told them what the grand prize was. I just let them kind of do their own thing, right? And it made news. It made Instagram news. Like, oh my God, these guys are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to sell tickets. That wasn't the project. The project was go sell tickets, and I have a grand prize for you at the end. And really, what happened was the special teams group and actually ended up selling the most amount of tickets. The team itself donated 118 tickets to the Boys and Girls Club and brought those guys to the game. And then the grand prize was a nationally televised spot with Murfreesboro Hyundai for our special teams group. So they just filmed their first commercial for our nationally televised brand. So those are the things that we've been trying to do.
Yeah, and see,
really creative.
Yeah, that really is. And again, you, like the strength coaches, know and have a better feeling for what's going on. That story right there, everybody watching, take notes, because this is what needs to happen. This is real NIL. You know.
Well, I was we were interviewing Urban Meyer the other day. Sorry, Rob. And Urban said he was talking about salaries for coaches and how that's all going to change now, and that's going away. And he said, but you know what? Guys like me, I don't care. He goes, I used to sell tickets and coach. And he said that was part of the gig. Like that from his first or second job, he's like, I had to sell tickets. He's like, so you do whatever you got to do, Do you see a difference just in that farmers market part of health and nutrition? Because I remember once the players started getting NIL money, that was one of my favorite stories, was that, hey, I get to go grocery shopping now and shop for myself as a real athlete and not go buy mac and cheese and crap, but I can actually go and because it's expensive to eat healthy, and to know how to do it. Do you see that same thing sort of coinciding?
Yeah, it was kind of actually like our offensive alignment, which was great. So they'd be working the market, but they'd be working the vegetable booths and things like that. And then the farmers were saying, hey, look, you need to eat better. So these guys ended up getting fresh vegetables, Wagyu beef, the whole deal, right? So yeah, they really did find out that by helping out the community, helping out the vendors and things like that, they also picked up the nutritional opportunities as well. And you're right, it is super expensive to eat healthy. It's really cheap to eat junk, but to eat the right vegetables and do those types of things, I think the players really kind of bought into that, and I think the community also helped out in that aspect.
That's what's great about farmers markets, right? Is that absolutely. you can go and get your proteins and your veg and all that stuff, and it's affordable by buying by the bushel, and and then you get information on how to prepare. I love farmers markets.
I do too.
We have one right down the street. We go every Saturday. So I think that's just really neat what you did there, Dana. I think that's a really cool. What a great way to connect to the community.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and now we're looking right now where everybody's building what are they called? Scarecrows, right? Yeah. So we're building scarecrows this week to put down in the farmers market, and there's a little competition down there, and so it's really just trying to show the players that, hey, look, you're part of this community. Let's give back to this community, and you're going to find out the more you give back, the more you're going to get in return.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dana, I got to ask you before you go. Jason Caldwell is going to be on here in just a minute. Covers Auburn for Auburn Undercover. You know Jason, I'm sure.
Yep. Absolutely.
And Jason and you get it. And Brendan's right. Trying to eat healthy. You can get a lot of stuff cheap, but you'll pay for it later.
Yes.
It ain't worth it. So your thoughts, because you're kind of Saban-like driven, and which is a compliment to you. The way you push, 21 managers when you were at Auburn, you've got a bunch, 21 teams, sports, 34 managers. You've got a bunch at Middle Tennessee State. Talk real quick about the game. Like look at college football, the effort, go back 5-10 years. Guys like, we all remember Ronnie Lott cutting the finger off, but what about the kids today? How many of them do love football, or do they just love the cash? And who doesn't want money, but you got to have
it's kind of interesting because this morning I was just looking at my PFF numbers, looking at my grading and things like that for our guys that we have in on NIL, right, and where their numbers land. I take that with a grain of salt because they're doing other things that are really good. But what you're finding now is that I think you have a bunch of players out there that are that are being paid a lot of money, but their performance level is really down. Like you see this across the country where the level of play is probably lower than what we're actually, costing. I mean, you look at offensive lines around the country, they still can't block. Like they don't know. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So quarterbacks not playing at extremely high levels. So it is difficult to see where this is going, where if I'm going to pay someone $1 million in the college level, you really don't have the opportunity like the NFL. So I do a spreadsheet every month. I get it from my recruiting department of all the misses of every athlete, right? If they missed a class or if they were late to a class, and then I equivalent that to a fine in the NFL. So, if I had to sit there, and I'll use hypothetical numbers, right?
Yeah.
If I have athletes of the 37 that I have in NIL, and if they missed or were late, that's $135,000 fine, right? That they've accumulated over that 1 month.
Wow.
So if you sit there and you look at that and then explain it to them, because in college you can't really take their money from them, you can only do different things. So trying to explain that to a student athlete, hey, look, if you guys keep doing this, just understand what it's costing you in the long run. And for me, when I go back to renegotiate their contract in January, I utilize all that information. If it's their grading scale on PFF, if it's their performance out in the community, if it's their misses lates, all those things accumulate, and then say I come up with a strategic number of what their value is. So those are things that I think are different and people aren't looking at. But to your point, I think the more we keep paying these kids, I think the performance on the field is going to continue to go down. I don't think it's going to go up.
Yeah,
so
it's a mess. Say hello to Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover. Dana, y'all know each other, and talking about
Jason.
What's up, bud?
How we doing, dude?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm fantastic. Enjoying the weather in Nashville.
Yeah, we might get there one day. Maybe we'll get it. we can get at least it is in the 80s now, but it's been warm road trips so far.
You could be in my office. It's 54 degrees in my office right now. That's why I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
That'd be nice. I don't know if I want to catch cold or not, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, I mean, I'm Memphis. I think it's going to be 91 today. It's like my wife's. It's October 1st, isn't it? If I'm mistaken. I mean, we'll be in the 90s, or high 80s. It's the same thing. Jason, Dana's talking about, Dana, I know you got to get going, but just real quick, Jason, we're talking about Jackson Arnold. He came to Auburn, exchanged for, I'm sure he was paid well. You look at the athletes right now and the effort. How many of these guys, as Dana referenced, truly love football? We all remember Ronnie Lott. We remember, hell, I go back to Danny Skutak in 1979 at Auburn, played with a broken fibula and was Sports Illustrated's National Defensive Player of the Week. That's what I think a football player is versus pulling over to the side of the road now because it's raining.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell because the difference is I think on Saturday that doesn't show up. The hard part is, does it show up? As Dana said, does it show up all year long? Yeah. That's the hard part because that's where you go, man, it's kind of easy. Got it made right now. Does it show up there? Here's the thing about, do I think that's an issue with Jackson Arnold? I don't. I think that guy loves football. I think he plays really hard. Sometimes it just doesn't fit right, or maybe it doesn't fit right at the moment. I don't think that's an issue with him. But you start looking at it going, look, it has to be that kind of drive. And like Dana said, like you see the difference in the NFL. You can see the guys here, they're paid really well that still do that. That's why they get to where they are. And so, and you don't know. NFL, you have an idea because it's a much smaller pool that you're fishing in. In college football, it's a massive pool. It takes a lot of players to fill up all these teams, and so because of that, you're not going to be perfect in this. I keep saying all the time. Look, Nick Saban for a long time, people went, man, but look at the development. Yeah, he also missed on a ton of guys. There was a ton of guys that didn't develop because they weren't good enough or didn't have that drive. But they got enough of them that the ones that did panned out, and they were good. So that's it.
Yeah. Dana, before you go, a lot of people, and I'm going to get back to Jason, but I'll let you go after this. One more question. A lot of people are saying it's ruining college football and all. You're doing your part, but do you think the rest of college football, there ain't many Dana Marquez's, there are not many Jason Caldwells, guys that'll just tell you the truth. What's the message you give to fans? Just kind of a minute answer, Cliff Note version, and then tell people how they can follow you, and we'll bring you on again soon, and appreciate your time as always.
Yeah. No, I think the biggest thing I'm taking a look at is, where does it change? Where does the market change? And, for like the group of five, for me, I think we have a really good direction of still driving the community, understanding how to create their own brand, how to do all those things. I think the Power 4 group, there's so much involved in that, and there's so many people, right? The one thing I can say about after leaving Auburn and coming to MTSU, the amount of people that are involved and the amount of money that is flowing through these buildings, and who's making those types of decisions for the right reasons, those are the big differences. I think that we have less red tape than I think an Auburn or an Alabama or a Texas has, right? There's a committee making those decisions and not just a specific coach or things like that. So I think from a fan base structure standpoint, I think, there's a bunch of different things that are happening out there in the NIL space, but I think hopefully we can get a better grasp on how we pay players. Like for us, we don't do year-long contracts. We're very unique in that facet. I took more of an NFL structure from the 80s. Our players aren't playing in the second half of the year. So I do a retention or a roster bonus versus a salary cap through a timeline where no one plays.
Yeah.
So again, they have to prove themselves in the second half of the year, not just the football season. So there are a lot of different ways of skinning this cat, but I think that the fans have to realize that the it's out of the box and you're not putting it back in. Everything is what it is now. How do you take that athlete? And Jason probably has a better answer to this than I do. How do you take that athlete and understand that you're paying him $1 million, $2 million, $3 million? And how does that equate to performance on the field?
Yeah.
Those are the questions that everybody's asking right now. How am I paying that person, and how are they, if they're not performing, what's the answer to that question? Because you can't go after their money in college.
Yeah.
So, and you throw it to the portal. Well, is the portal the answer?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
All right, Dana, we'll do it again soon. This is great stuff. The truth has been spoken. Thank you so much.
You guys got it. Jason, it's good seeing you, man.
You too, buddy. See you.
All right, later.
Jason, I know we've been late, a little bit late start this morning. I know you got another show at 8:30. Tell us real quick. Everybody's asking about what's going on down there with the Auburn soccer team. I mean the football team. What is happening? Football. Tell us, and you've got just a few minutes, and we'll bring you back on again soon. I apologize. This is my fault.
Yeah, no, it's the question, and you look at it and go, man, as rough as it's been offensively, you look up and you've been less than a touchdown on the road against Oklahoma and Texas A&M. So to me, that shows you that this team is talented enough to go win. But you have to be able to move the football offensively. And honestly, the last 2 weeks has not been good enough playing. Plain and simple. Now, there's other reasons. You got to get rid of the football. Got to help out your quarterback. Quarterback's got to help you out. I mean, there's a lot of things that tie in, but you can't run the ball 8 times in an SEC game with your running backs unless you're running air raid. If you're running the air raid, it better be producing yards and points. And it was throwing passes to nowhere, basically, Saturday. So, look, if you're an RPO system, and as I've said this week a couple of times, if you're an RPO system, you have to R at some point. Because if you're just a PO, that doesn't work. So they have to run the football. There were 8 carries by Auburn's running back Saturday. 4 of those carries were when there were 15 yards or more to go. So in my mind, you had 4 carries for your running backs. in an entire football game that you lost by a touchdown. Those are things I look at and go, that can't happen. And Hugh Freeze has said, look, we need to run the football more. We need to run it more. But then you got to go do it in the game. And they've had 2 weeks. Now you got a bye week to figure out what you are as an offense.
Yeah.
Do you need to line up and run the football and use Jackson Arnold's legs as a strength? Or if you need to spread it out and throw it, who's the best guy to do that? I don't know. We'll find out. But there's a lot of things on the table right now for them. And you got a little bit of time now to try to figure it out.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions coming in on my text that should be on the chat room. But real quick, Hugh Freeze, what do you think happens with this? Where does this end?
Yeah, it depends on what happens the rest of this season. You're still 3-2, and you've lost 2 road games to top 10 teams by a touchdown. There's still a lot of football left. And in my opinion, we've seen this league, I don't think there's anybody on the schedule that Auburn can't beat. I haven't seen a great football team in this league. Maybe there's one out there. But I think there's a bunch of good teams. And I think Auburn could be one of those. I think they've shown they're right there with them.
Yeah.
Just depends on what happens this season. I think it would take a disaster for them for it to be over with. I mean, I'm talking about true disaster for it to be like 2012.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you just look, you got winnable games, go improve. You got a lot of those at home. You played 3 out of your first 5 games on the road against 3 teams that are going to be bowl teams, and 2 that are going to be maybe upper level. See what you can do and see if you can make some hay at home now and see what happens.
Yeah. Jason, let them know how they can follow you. We'll do it again soon. You got another show coming up in about a minute.
Yep. Check us out, auburnundercover.com, part of the 24/7 network. Tons going on, even though it's a bye week. We actually have basketball pro day today where they kind of work out for NBA scouts. So we'll have that opportunity today. Actually been over to baseball a couple of times already this week as they get started fall baseball this weekend as well. So got some baseball talk and obviously a lot of football as get rolling towards the end of this bye week and Georgia next week.
Hey, if an opportunity ever arises, you are great behind the mic with baseball. You're like Bill Cameron. Y'all are biggest baseball junkies I've ever seen in my life.
Here's the thing, and I don't watch I did last night. I take that back. I watched a little bit of Major League Baseball last night, but I don't really. It's more college baseball for me. But I actually going to get an opportunity to do some early season baseball again this year. So with Andy doing basketball, I'll get a chance to do some Auburn baseball again as helping out Brad Law whenever I can. So looking forward to it. So.
Yeah, that's Dudley Dawson here inside Arkansas, huge Cardinals fan.
I know the baseball guy there, so I know that for sure. So
yeah, Jason, thank you so much, man. Have a great day. Okay.
Thanks. See y'all.
You bet. Dudley, love that. Got the Celtic colors on now.
We go live to where a disaster is actually happening.
It's unbelievable. Look. Arkansas. You go from one frying pan to the other. Bobby Petrino's in charge now, and Sam Pittman's out. We all saw that coming. I mean, it's just the way it is. But first off, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I mean, it means the world to us. I heard John Neighbors, inside Arkansas, your boss, I guess, that you work with. Heard him on Chuck Oliver's show yesterday. Very optimistic about what's going on. We all know there's a lot of money at every school. It just depends on circumstances whether they're going to spend it or not. What's happened since Sam Pittman has been forced out? What do you think Big Sam will do? And who are some of the top coaching candidates for Arkansas?
Let's start off with the fact that I've been rewatching Breaking Bad. And in one of those episodes over the weekend, and I want to make sure my wife's worried about how I'm going to say this. The T is silent when I say this.
Yep.
It is a catastrophe up here, or it was last Saturday. And, you talk to former players, you talk to fans, other media, and a change had to happen. And Hunter Yurchek, the athletic director, went ahead and pulled that plug with the blessing of the president and chancellor from the university. There's nothing you can do about what has happened before now. Coach Pittman, as I've always said, is a great dude, but people were not playing hard anymore. And the two plays away in Ole Miss and Memphis, and maybe win those football games. And the trajectory of the football team and the trajectory of Coach Pittman's career is maybe different. But what do you do now? I mean, the past is the past. So what do you do now? Well, you turn to Bobby Petrino, and he's going to have the opportunity to go up against a big time schedule. Got off week this week, and then go to Tennessee, which is certainly not going to be an easy game.
Yeah.
Especially because Tennessee puts up points and Arkansas gives them up. And it's sad for all involved because the three guys on defense that got fired, the head coach that got fired, they're all good guys, all hard workers, but it just wasn't working. And now, so what do? You mentioned John being optimistic. Well, there's nowhere to go but up. And whether they continue to employ Bobby Petrino or they go out and hire a Rhett Lashley or one of these other coaches that have proven themselves at other programs, it can only get better. So I think that's what Arkansas fans have to look for. And it's been interesting. There's been such a vocal majority that wanted a change. Well, you got the change now. Let's see what happens. And it has to be. It absolutely has to be. Somebody has to step forward, whether it be the board of trustees, whether it be a John Tyson-like guy that did with basketball. You've got to step forward and put some money into the football program because from everything you hear, Arkansas is 13th or 14th in the analytical. When you look at the analytics of the money that's going into the program and being paid out to the players and all that, if you're going to compete, you got to get in there and do it.
Well, I like the Green Bay Packers model in the NFL. The fans, you're shareholders. You buy shares of the team. They have a fan base unlike any other in the NFL. It's just like college. Michael Sag, Connor Sag. I mean, these are friends of mine, all Razorbacks, by the way, that make 3 or 4 Hodges a year, pilgrimages to Green Bay. They don't miss. They treat the Packers games like we treat college. Sundays, you don't call them when the Packers are playing. So looking at Arkansas, and Vince Ferrara should join us momentarily from the Sports Animal in Knoxville, but we're talking with Dudley Dawson, Inside Arkansas, folks. Follow him. You'll be wiser for it. He's putting out stuff on Twitter constantly, never stops. He's like a great white shark. He's got to keep moving, and he's got great information. You look at how big recruiting the new coach coming in. Let's say it's John Summerall. He played at Kentucky. He's at Tulane now. He's been at Troy. He's a good one. Rhett Lashley's making less than $3 million at SMU. He played for Gus at Shiloh Christian Academy. Played for the Razorbacks 05, 06 for Houston Nutt. Do you bring in Houston Nutt as chief fundraiser? And then do you bring in Rhett Lashley, John Summerall, Pat Summerall? Wouldn't that be great? Tom Brookshire. But what do you do? What do you think they should do?
Well, first of all, the Houston Nutt, I think people who were dismissive of him at the end of his career here when he went to Ole Miss are now looking back and say, that was not a bad run. Yeah. Wasn't as good as the Bobby Petrino run at the end of the year, but I think there is a lot of movement for him as an athletic director. I've not been told yet whether he would take it if that job was offered. And right now, Hunter Yurchek is the athletic director, and he's got a situation here where every other sport at the University of Arkansas is thriving or competing for championships, but football not. And so he's been tied to Sam Pittman. There's a lot of people wondering, since he hired the last coach and so many people turned it down, should he be involved in hiring this coach? Well, he's the athletic director until somebody tells him he's not. He's going to work on bringing somebody in. It's a group effort by these people who have the money, who make the decisions. You cannot hit a single, double, even a triple. You've got to hit a home run in this way. I like Rhett Lashley. I don't know whether he's going to take the job. I've talked to him a lot over the years since he's been at different places. I do know one thing: he's about to get a raise one way or the other, whether he comes here or he stays at SMU or whatever. He's a good dude. He loves Arkansas, but he loves the situation he's in right now too. I mean, SMU went 11-3 last year, and 11-2. he's done an outstanding job there, and he obviously has been a big help at the other places he's been at. So it's doable here, but the model that they've been using has not allowed Arkansas to thrive. And I've said on this show, since you started bringing me in, Arkansas started behind the ball on NIL. They said, we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
Everybody else was racing out, and that was even though the government here was kind of ahead of things. As Brandon, I was talking to a good friend, Brandon Marcello of CBS Sports the other day, that Arkansas had the opportunity to get out in front of this. The legislature gave them the opportunity, and they just kind of sit around and fumbled it. Now, they're trying to catch up, and it's just tough. I don't care what league you're in, especially if you're in the SEC and you're trying to catch up. You're going uphill both ways. So they have to make this higher. Whether it's Bobby Petrino, and again, if he goes 7-0, he deserves the job because this defense wasn't stopping anybody. And if he came in and immediately made decisions. You can say whether they're fair or not, but he's a taskmaster. He's very disciplined when it comes to football teams. And he basically said the other day, this is like pros. Y'all are getting paid now, and yeah, you're upset that your defensive coaches left, but grow up. You're a paid employee now. I expect you to show up Monday and give more effort than you did on Saturday.
Yeah. When you start seeing a lack of effort, guys jogging, even though they can't catch the guy, you still got to be running. Those are red flags. And I'll tell you what, also being in sales for decades, my career, I don't like it when people say you got to be realistic. Nope, I'm not realistic. I think I'm going to get every sale I go after. You know what? Confidence is you're going fishing for Moby Dick. You go by Costco and get extra tartar sauce. That's who I want as my athletic director. I don't want someone who says, we can't win a national championship here at Arkansas. I said that was a cry for help from Hunter Yurachek. And I think what he was saying was the way we're doing it now, we can't. But if everybody gets involved, you had one of the 10 largest crowds ever for the Notre Dame game. Lou Holtz was back in town, as you said last week. And I told so many people that. They said, I did not know that. All 4 of Lou's kids graduated from Fayetteville High School. If you hadn't been to Fayetteville, folks, it's kind of like Palm Springs, out in the desert. It's just like, wow, 600, but there's 600,000 people. Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville, Bentonville, 200 miles of hiking and biking trails, whitewater, canoe and kayaking. It's a paradise, man. Oh, and Walmart.
We lack for nothing up here except an NFL team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what Arkansas is,
they are. And in that stadium, wow. I mean, the entire way around is glass enclosed luxury suites. You've got the Walmart logo and the Tyson Chicken logo on your field. I just think it's getting the right guy in here who knows how to ask for the order.
Yeah. And the other thing has to be, and I'm sorry if I interrupted.
No.
A lot in my head.
Yeah.
But the messaging here, these are good people, but the messaging here has not been good at all. I'm still trying to, at 62, I'm still trying to get the English language right. But I know how to, as you said, market these things a little bit better, or I know how not to. And a lot of the stuff they've been doing is how not to. You have to have somebody that comes in here. And again, if Bobby Petrino goes 7-0, yes, you give him the job because he will have really done something. But you have to come in here and have somebody with energy. As good a dude as Sam Pittman was. He was not electric at the press conference. And if there's ever a time at the University of Arkansas where you have to have some electricity and have to have some energy at this thing, you need whether Houston Nutt is involved or whatever, you need somebody with that type of energy. And it's just, it is. I'm a graduate of this university, very proud graduate of this university, lived in this state all my life, have chose to do that because I had the opportunities to go a lot of other places. And I'm objective about things, but still, I can look at it as a graduate and go, what the.
Yeah. Dudley, growing up in Memphis, I have always looked at Arkansas as diamond in the rough type deal. Coach Bryant used to say, if they ever get their act together at Florida, we're all fighting for second. You do not understand, people, unless you've seen the money that's up in the northwest corner of Arkansas. It is on a level the last campaign Arkansas had for the university, the Walton Foundation wrote a check, and I'm sure it was a cashier's check or it was a wire, $500 million to Arkansas. The net worth of the Walton family is over $250 billion. They got money. You cannot have anyone up there who has realistic expectations, who is a low energy individual. You've got to have people that understand. And I think maybe get some people from outside of Arkansas who look at this place and go, boy, y'all just hadn't been shaking that cup enough.
Yeah,
You
well,
gotta-
here's one of the things. A lot of people say, why can't Walmart just write a check, get this thing going on? That Walmart
Can't do
and
that.
and the people who are in the top of Walmart
Yeah.
are, a lot of them are Missouri graduates. A lot
Yes,
of them have turned
exactly.
their attention to Missouri. Missouri is thriving. Eli Drinkwitz, who, as I've said, coached, maybe 5 minutes from my house here. Sometimes it's, I look at him and what he says, I don't understand, but man, that dude can coach.
Yeah.
That dude can coach. I almost called him boy because he's younger than me. He used
Yeah.
to be way younger than me. That's not right. But he's a great coach. There's no doubt about that. And
Yeah.
he is a great recruiter, or however his system's set up, he's a great recruiter. They have to have somebody like that.
Yeah.
It probably a little bit younger, but I mean, I have so many ideas in my head, so much I want to say, but the number one thing is you got to find the right guy and you got to find you some money.
And you cannot go to 1 or 2 or 5 or 6 families and beat them every time over the head and say, give us money. They're
Unless
going to
you're Frank Broyles.
Well, yeah. Now he was the best, Big Daddy, but they'll give, but they want to see other people participate. It's kind of like, you can't do your kids' homework. If you do it, they're not going to learn anything, and you're just an enabler. So I think,
Yeah, I'm friends. I think I'm friends with a lot of people who give money to the university. It's big money to the university.
Yeah.
And they're very nice to me because I've never asked them for any money.
yeah, but it's got to be a populist movement like the Grove Collective at Ole Miss. Vince Ferrara joins us from the checkerboard orange and white. Look at that background. There's the bear. He makes his appearance.
It's our puffing stuff, baby.
Brendan's over in the corner in the fetal position. Ah! Hey, man, thank you for taking time to join us this morning. I know you got grabbed in a staff meeting. Tennessee, man, big win. Looked like a lot of orange and white. They wore the all orange on the road for the first time in school history. You got the W in Starkville. How you doing?
Yeah, doing great. No need to apologize for road wins in the SEC.
That's right.
Not these days when some of the teams at the bottom have risen up. And, I know Arkansas is having their struggles and Kentucky's not a great team, but that doesn't mean that they can't beat you and don't have players to beat you. And they were ready. They were jacked up. You mentioned the Tennessee fans that were there. But, man, cowbells were ringing. And a lot of players mentioned how annoying it is, but it didn't seem like it fazed them with a bunch of false starts and stuff like that. And that's a much improved Mississippi State team. They're gonna clip some people if teams aren't ready. They're gonna mark and get a couple of wins. I know Levy doesn't have one yet, but I think that will happen because they are much improved. So, Tennessee made mistakes and scored a couple of touchdowns on defense, which they certainly needed. And even after some of those mistakes and even after some, head scratching lack of use of timeouts and clock management for Josh Heupel, which we have not seen much of during his tenure at Tennessee, they were able to overcome all of that and still find a way to get a game-tying drive from Aguilar, 13 plays, 75 yards in that fourth quarter to tie it, and still had an opportunity maybe to try to get the win in regulation. But then in the overtime, first play, 25-yard touchdown run by Deshaun Bishop. I think that gave them a lot of confidence, eased the tension some, and then defense made 4 stops when Mississippi State was on offense, and they won the game with a deflection by Arion Carter, who finished the game with 17 tackles, the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. So a lot of big performances individually, but that they aren't clean. But you know what? Your quarterback bounces back from a couple of interceptions off of deflections, and he's able to execute late. Your defense makes plays when you need it, and you win on the road in the SEC. That is the overriding factor more than anything else about, hey, should have done this, could have done this. The biggest thing is you won, just get the W and then try to get better during your open week.
Hey, Vince, what's it like to cover a team that has stops on defense?
Man, I felt bad for you. I felt bad for Sam Pittman, who's, as you know, such a class act, and you hate to see that happen to him. But man, as a results business, and when you're below 500 as a head coach in your 6th year, it's got to be better. But yeah, that was rough to watch. I expected more. Maybe you didn't.
I expected it to be somewhat of a game, but
Right.
I mean, in no way. You can point to the exact moment this thing fell off the cliff. They fought for a little while. It was 13-10.
Mm-hmm.
Then Notre Dame scored, and then next thing you know, 35 seconds before halftime, 2 touchdowns around a fumble. And if fumble is in the narrative here of this season, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it is. Well, Vince, and you're right about never apologize for a road win in the SEC. That's like a surgeon apologizing for blood being all over the table after you saved your life. I mean, it is so difficult to get the wins. And, looking at this, they're in a great team in the SEC. But I tell you what, I saw, and if I'm a coach and I'm watching the full 22 in there in the tape room with other coaches Sunday morning, there were 3 big-time plays by Joey Aguilar. If this guy isn't the best quarterback, clutch guy in the SEC, him, Gunnar Stockton, I think the best one is Ty Simpson out of Martin, Westview, Tennessee. 4th-year junior. He waited his time, but talk about Aguilar. You know who else is from Antioch, California? A great player that we saw recently, Najee Harris, running back at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good players in the Bay Area. What are there, 10 million people to choose from?
Yeah, and he's got that California cool to him.
Yeah,
but
he does.
It's not casual. Like Nico came across to a lot of fans as casual, and maybe even cocky. But this kid isn't that way, man. He takes blame. Like there's 2 deflections off of throws that weren't perfect, but they were off the hands of their tight end, Miles Kitselman, that were intercepted. He's taken blame for that in the post game. In fact, he took the blame for it immediately to Kitselman and said, "That's on me." Throws were a little high. The second one, I believe, was a little hot coming in a short distance. So, he takes the blame for that. He doesn't blame other people when there's credit to be had with good plays. He's deflecting the credit to others. That's how you handle yourself. He's a young man now. He's not a kid. He's 24 years old, and he's using that maturity to be a better teammate and to handle himself in those situations. The poise, Heupel's talked about the ability to shake off those negative plays is tremendous. So he's passing a lot of tests, leads the SEC in passing yards. He gives his wide receivers finally, it's been since 2022, we've seen it, finally a quarterback at Tennessee that gives their wide receivers a chance with their deep balls. Yeah. And Braswell should have had another one on a terrible pass interference call. Mike Matthews dropped one that was in the bucket.
Yeah.
But, I mean, those guys are all producing at wide receiver. And a part of that is they know their quarterback is going to give them a chance to make plays, and that's what wide receivers want.
Yeah. Dudley, I'm going to start going back and forth with both of y'all because you're 2 smart guys that got y'all together for the rest of the show. 1 through 16 in the SEC. Right now, who is your best team? We know Ole Miss is 3-0 in the conference. Are they the best? Do you think they'll end up in Atlanta? I've got Georgia playing Bama and Georgia to win, but I did pick Bama to win Saturday. But I think Georgia wins. But I don't know if there is a dominant team.
No, I don't either. And I think Ole Miss has proven, the teams that they have had in front of them, they've taken down. And maybe had a couple of breaks, but that's how you get to where you are. If you get some breaks, that's part of it. Now that Alabama team that played the other night looked really good. And when you go into Georgia and win, and what was the 873 home games straight they'd won or whatever it was. I mean,
874,
yeah. So, I think by the end of the year, and maybe not right now, Alabama is, but until Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss lose a game, they have to be, at the top for me. And, it's crazy. Right now, just the way the situation is, number 16 is Arkansas.
Yeah. Same question to you, Vince.
Boy, it's hard. I think I would, just judging them eye test, I would put Ole Miss ahead of Alabama, and you got to consider Texas A&M as well,
Yeah.
who's also undefeated. I don't, even though Vanderbilt's undefeated, I don't think what they've done to this point warrants that. If they win at Alabama, then all bets are off. Then we
Yeah.
really got to flush anything we've ever thought about Vandy. But Alabama has the best win, at Georgia. So that, how much weight do you give to that versus the eye test? We're not the committee. We're just answering a question on your show. So I would say Ole Miss right now, but it's there's a long way to go, because as well as Alabama's playing now, we saw that there were ebbs and flows in their season last year, and that was the case for a number of different teams. Real quick on Ole Miss, I've used this example for Tennessee fans that were critical of how they barely beat Mississippi State on the road. Ole Miss is a great example of, hey, you cannot look dominant and eke out close wins against lesser competition, that deemed lesser competition, but still be a great team when it matters. When they had close one-score wins over Kentucky and Arkansas, two teams that are struggling, and Dudley mentioned maybe 15 and 16 in the league, you barely beat them, and you're like, oh my God, they barely beat those teams, but then they're still good enough to beat a top 5 team in LSU. So
Mike Elko has entered the chat, and I like the way he paraphrased Brian Kelly's thing with the media the other night. But now that I've watched Notre Dame, and obviously they've played a tougher schedule than Arkansas did, but A&M went to Notre Dame and beat them 41-40.
Right.
And they've got the defense from Notre Dame isn't as great either, unless it was last weekend. But yeah, that's probably the second best win in the league this year, or on par with it. We'll see how it plays itself out toward the end of the year.
All right, interesting thing. I heard Dan Peck and Bill Cameron on a show I listened to in the afternoons in Auburn, ESPN 106.7, The Afternoon Drive. Dan talked about Ole Miss last year, for example, lost to Kentucky, and then they lost to a surging Florida team later, but they have trouble with he called it pest control, a team like Kentucky that's way down there, and you play down to that level of competition. Vince, Dudley, start back with you, Dudley. Arkansas this season now, we got Bobby Petrino in charge. If he goes 7-0, yeah, he gets the job. But who's going to run the defense for Arkansas now?
They have elevated. I'm having a brain freeze right now, but they've elevated a guy who used to be the defensive coach at Mississippi State. And I'll find his name here.
Zach Arnett.
No, that's bad on me. But I've had so much going on in my head. But I'll look it up here in a second. But he's been elevated to run the defense. Coach Trino's still going to run the offense. It's been so interesting for me. The thing I've concentrated on most this week with my inside Arkansas duties is the decommits, and there have been 9 in September now. They're down to 18. They're 15th in the SEC in all the major recruiting polls, and then Missouri is last, but that's only because they've got 10 commitments, and they're not out trying to acquire a lot of stuff. They're going to go through the portal and do a lot of other things. It's worked well for them, but yeah, it is just a free flowing situation up here. I'm anxious. They've got a bye this week, and then they go to Tennessee and face the new Superman there.
Yeah.
And so I mean they're going to put up a lot of points too. But yeah, it's. I wish I could be more eloquent, but it's as I said earlier, a catastrophe up here.
Yeah.
So, Rob, let me ask Dudley a quick question, since we're going to match up next week, and I'm sure you'll get into both of us interacting next week with the matchup between us. But are all those positions, because I guess there was 3 assistants that Petrino let go, right? Are they all just elevated from the staff or grad assistants or those kind of things, or anyone coming in from the outside to fill those spots?
Well, one of the things about Arkansas staff is it does not have as much support people as, say, I think Tennessee has 17 that are not assistant coaches. Arkansas has 5. And of those 5, there's some very good ones, and they've elevated those guys up. And Shea Hendricks, who just happens to be the father of probably the best junior quarterback in the state, that plays at Fayetteville, Hank Hendricks. He's now elevated to a spot there on the full staff. They are one down. There's a big push right now for former Arkansas player Alfred Davis to come in and be a defensive line coach. He stepped away from Missouri. There were some family issues that he had to take care of. But they've got one coach, and Coach Petrino said that they might add that. It might add one person, but they've had enough. And fortunately, these weren't guys that were just hanging on. Of the 5 extra support staff they've elevated some, so they'll be okay. The big thing is whoever is the defensive coach, as Coach Petrino says, got to get in the right stance, got to tackle, got to play with passion, all these kind of stuff. They were a bad defense, but the effort, intensity, and all that is what got the defensive coaches fired, not the actual execution, even as strange as that says.
Or scheme.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just, you could see it in that Memphis game. It was ugly. And that when that happens, that's like fans leaving the game in the second quarter. Athletic directors see that. Apathy will kill you quicker than anything. Passion, angry fans, they keep you going. All right, real quick, 30 seconds or less. We got to wrap it up. Story that is going on at Tennessee that we don't know about, that you're talking about, that we better pay attention to.
Availability. They got 2 players back. One was Jackson Moy, one of their starting defensive tackles. He had been out since the very first series of the season against Syracuse, came back in the D-line, did okay, should be better after some getting more into football shape. And 5-star offensive tackle David Sanders Jr., who was slated to start the season at right tackle, got hurt the week of the opener, made his debut with about 7 and change to go on a game-tying drive, and he came in under fire and did well. We'll see if he ends up starting or if they blend him in and ramp him up. And then the availability of some other guys still in question. And maybe get McCoy back for this game and another D-tackle in David Hobbs.
And I'm going to punt on this one. Ain't nothing we ain't discussing up here. We discussing everything.
All right, look, guys, great stuff as always. Inside Arkansas, Dudley Dawson, Vince Ferrara, the Sports Animal 99.1 in Knoxville. Let's do it again next week. We'll be getting ready for the matchup in Knoxville, Hogs and Vols. Thank you. All right.
See you guys. Thank you.
You bet. Let's say Memphis.com. Open every day of the week except Sunday, where the day means more than the dollar. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. Look, if you get worried, it's a waste of time. Ask for Brad, the general manager. Say, hey, look, I heard about you on Sidelines with Rob. He talks about y'all. Help me. I want to get a new truck, or I want to get this Ford Escape for my kids turning 16. Or you got service department issues. Just start with Brad Bellamy. Ask for Brad, the general manager, and they will pick you up, provide round-trip transportation in the service department. If you didn't buy your last vehicle from Landers, you paid too much. Be simple, okay? Right down the street from Hewlett and Dunn. Ladies, they've got all kinds of good-looking women's clothes. They've got the boots, over 7,000 pairs. Even for 2-year-old kids, they got size 6, 7s, and 8s. The Duckhead collection out there. The Duckhead canvas jackets with plaid lining are so good-looking. The Filson, the Barber, they've got boots for the women. Guys, you want your wife to love you and understand why you're watching football 18 hours on Saturday. Take her to Hewlett and Dunn and give her $1,000 and just say, hey, man, go get it. Great people. The gummies. I'm telling you right now, you will not sleep better than these Lights Out gummies. They've got energy, chill, and the lights out. They've also got topical pains, lotions for injuries that you've got. But he's partnered with the Pro Athletes Hemp Association. Give them a ring on that QR code. Use the promo code Sidelines for 25% off. Okay. And Rumble Boxing, man, how you fight is how you live. It's that simple. Union and McLean, Midtown Memphis, open every day of the week. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Stay tuned to this channel. You got 3 shows every day, 8 shows overall, constant updates from our executive producer, Brendan Martin. I'm Rob Browne. Thank y'all for watching. See you tomorrow.